I have too many plugins. You have too many plugins. Do we really need another EQ? The good people at Eventide seem to think so. And not only that, they think that their new split EQ is a genuine world shaker. Hello and welcome to Tobisonics. How are you all doing? I hope you're all feeling fit, happy, healthy and well. First up, I've been a little bit under the weather this week, so apologies if I'm looking more dilapidated than usual.
I'm dilapidated, over the hill and underrated. I don't do Tinder cause I'm carbon dated.
So we're taking a look at the Eventide SplitEQ, and there are a lot of videos on YouTube about this thing. So what is it that we can do differently? Well, I've been working on material for my new LP since May of this year, and in all honesty, there are one or two things that I just can't get right, and they have been driving me crazy. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to take the Eventide SplitEQ, we're going to put them on there, and we're going to see if it can solve the problems. If it can solve the problems, then congratulations, Eventide. You've come up with a genuine world shaker. If it can't, then I'm sorry, Eventide, you lose. It's as simple as that. Let's get into it. First up, we've got ourselves a tom, and it's a classic 80s drum machine electronic tom sound, and I'm having trouble getting it to set up in the production the way I want it to without bringing up too much kind of weight, kind of blobbing it down and kind of dragging it down. This is exactly what the SplitEQ is designed to do. So if it can't help us with this, Eventide, you got yourself some problems. First up, I'm going to play what I had already, and you'll see that I'm using the ProQ. Then immediately afterwards, I'm going to play what the SplitEQ did to it so you guys can hear the difference. That is exactly the sound I was going for, which is both really impressive and genuinely a little bit irritating because I've been on at that thing since the beginning of June. Oh yeah. Now there is a little extra processing going on, there's kind of a delay in there, there's a little bit of reverb, and there's an octave up version, so there's some other stuff going on around it as well. I did that, thank you very much, Eventide. But nevertheless, I could not get what I wanted with what I had. I put the SplitEQ on it, I dropped it on a preset for toms, and immediately it was better. I dialed the preset in a little bit, bang, got what I wanted. Yeah, I gotta be honest, 10 out of 10 Eventide for that one, 10 out of 10. Let's break into it and have a quick look at how I did that and how I set up the SplitEQ. All right, here we go, and we're starting off with the preset Sharper Higher Tom. So let's have a quick look at what that looked like when I loaded it up. Here's what the preset looked like, and this is what we ended up with. So it's pretty much the same, and the only differences I've made really is I've adjusted these curves according to fit just the key of the track, just this particular tom, and then you can see that I've added a low cut, high pass, whatever you want to call it. I've just added a little bit down here just to take out some of the lows. So a couple of things. What's making the difference? Well, here we go. The green line is what's giving us our transients. So what we're doing is we're boosting our transients around about 155 and about 12.6. We're boosting our transients. And we're boosting them by about 5.5 dB in each case. And then here we go. We're still boosting what is referred to as kind of the tonal, or what I kind of think of as like the body of the thing, or you could call it the sustain, I guess. It depends how you want to think about it. We're boosting the sustain of it by about half as much here, down here at 155, and then we're cutting about as much, not quite as much, up here at 6. So what's that doing for us? Well, particularly the top where you've got a big contrast, what that's doing for us is it's just getting us that kind of pop, 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 that real kind of air, that real pop at the top, and that's it, and then it's shutting it right down. It's really not hanging about, and that's great, because that means it's not
clashing with a hi-hat or anything like that. It just does what it needs to do and gets the hell out of Dodge. I like that. I like it a lot. And again, here, what we're actually doing is, it's a little different here, what we're doing here. We're actually giving it a little bit more body, a little bit more tone. So we're giving it a bit more weight, but nowhere near as much as we're working those transients. We're really pushing it up. And then here, we're dipping the tonal. We're taking the body, the sustain out at around 415. Interestingly, though, we're keeping the transients where they are. Now, it's pretty common with drums to take frequencies out around sort of 350-ish, this kind of area. We're a little higher than that one, 415, but it's pretty common to take something out around this part of the world. What's interesting about the way that the SplitEQ does it is it's leaving the transient in, and that was really fascinating because by leaving it in, it keeps some of the grit and the grind and kind of the spike and the edge of the drum is there. It keeps the character, but it doesn't bog down and kind of boxy up the drum with the sustain, with the kind of tonal. It's very, very cool. That's a very interesting thing that I never even thought about it that way. It really did just like, wow, boo! Like it really was a light bulb moment for me, that.
All right, we're back and it's the next day. And this morning I've been working on the production again and working on the second track on the LP, which is almost entirely percussive. And I have a section in the breakdown where I want this series of snares to sound almost like a live kind of New York street drummer, like something out of Taxi Driver or something like that. And at the moment it's just sounding a little bit, dare I say it, pedestrian. So let's see what the SplitEQ can do for us. We're going to go through the loop 3 times. First, we're going to hear what I had before. Then I'm going to drop the SplitEQ onto the dry drums, play the loop again. And then finally, I'm going to put the SplitEQ onto the reverb for the drums as well and play the loop again. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3 and see what the SplitEQ can do. And what we want is we want that SplitEQ to add us some musicality, some excitement, some explosion, some edge, some drama. If it can, then congratulations, Eventide, you win again. If it can't, sorry, you lose. As soon as that SplitEQ drops onto the dry drums, immediately you're getting much better kind of transient kind of bounce and pop. It's much more lively, feels much more musical. And then once it hits the reverb, it kind of doubles down on that. It gets kind of wider and deeper and feels like there's a sense to which there's an actual kind of hit and miss almost to the drum action. It's not all the way there yet. There's still work to be done. But I would consider that to be right now, that's kind of the bare minimum of what I was looking for, whereas before it was kind of nowhere. So once again, very, very good there from the SplitEQ. Let's take a moment, let's drop into the on screen, let's break into the production and have a quick look at what it is that I'm doing with the SplitEQ to get that to work. All right, let's start off on the dry snare. And once again, we've started with a preset snare accentuation. And if we go and flick over to B, we can see what that preset looked like when we loaded it up. So there's not a world of difference there. Let's have a look at the differences here, though. This is the preset. Back to what we have. So you notice one of the big differences here is that we've got a little bit of a dip here. We're just taking out a touch of the sustain, the tonal. We're just taking out a little bit there, just 0.7 dB, not too much. We've moved it a little bit. We've gone from 7.2K to 6.6K. That's just tuning it into the snare a touch. It's not a big difference. Pretty much as the preset works, because frankly, the preset worked. It did the job. If it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. Okay, moving on to the reverb, and you see once again we're using a preset, although this is a touch different. This is default drum split. Now let's go over to B and let's just load that up. So here we are in modified split defaults, general mixing, default drum split. Here we go.
And you'll see that you're not getting anything going on here. What it's setting for you is down here, full drum set, transient separation 100%, decay 20%, and smooth on the milliseconds front. Let's flip over to what we ended up with. Well, we're still going at 0 milliseconds, and our decay and separation are the same as they were, but we've gone from a full drum set to just the snare, because they found like it was just homing in on the noise just that little bit better, which is what you'd expect. But, nevertheless, it's worth trying these things, seeing how the plugin works.
All right, another day has passed, and this morning I was playing around with a bass line in the production that I haven't been getting quite enough bite, enough interest, enough kind of drive from. So let's see if the split EQ can give us something different. It's not the difference between night and day for me, this one. It's not like the toms or the snare where the split EQ was really giving us something that was, very obviously different and better. Here, I think it's a little bit more subtle than that. But to my ear, what the split EQ is doing for us is it's more musical, and I hate this word, but it feels more organic. Yeah, I'm sorry. But please let me know in the comments below if you prefer what the Pro Q was doing. I'd be interested to hear that, because I don't think it's an absolute slam dunk for the split EQ. But just to my own ear, to how I'm hearing it and what I'm wanting from this bass line, I do feel like the split EQ is giving me that little bit more. Let's take a closer look at it. Let's do a direct comparison. We're going to compare what I'm doing with the Pro Q with what I'm doing with the split EQ, and how we're working the differences between the dynamic options that the Pro Q affords us versus the transient tonal split that the split EQ affords us.
So you can see straight away that the broad strokes of what's going on are pretty much the same. We've got high and low passes on both EQs at about the same place. A little bit of difference here. The Pro Q's a little bit higher up, because they've got a bit more range there than the split EQ. We've got, on the face of it, a boost here working at 698. The exact same thing happening over here at the split EQ. And we've got a little bit of a dip here going on at 164, which we've also got on the split EQ. And then we've got an extra bit going on here at 349. So let's see what that means in terms of the devil and its details. Couple of advantages that the split EQ gives us straight off the bat, and that's with our high-low passes. We're able to pass differently depending on the transient or the tonal. I really like this. So you can see that we've got our low pass. Let me bring that out so you can see the numbers. We've got our low pass set down here at 65 hertz and our tonal pass set at 97. Over here on the Pro Q, that's where our pass is set all together. So what that's giving us is just that little bit of lower bite just in the transients, just to help the shift the bass along. And then at the opposite end of the scale, we're doing something similar. We've got ourselves a 20K cut just right at the top of the table, just to tidy the high frequencies up for the transients. And then the tonal, we've come down just a little bit, 17.5K. And what that's doing is it's just cleaning up that high end just a little bit. And it's just giving a little bit more room to the hi-hat in particular, the top of what's happening with the drums. So you're just getting a little bit more definition from, you're getting that little bit more definition in the drums because of what you're doing with the split EQ. So it's not really something that you're hearing so much on the bass line, but you're hearing the benefit of it on the drums. Next up, let's take a look at our boost here that we've got going on at 698. Over here on the split EQ, we've got a 2.8 dB boost on the transients, 1.4 dB boost on the tonal. So we're pushing up the top of that kind of fizzy, kind of up your nose almost kind of bass, kind of the pointiness of the bass. We're pushing that up on the initial kind of transient bite of the bass twice as much as the tonal. So we're getting some body there as well. We're getting some tone and some weight to it, but we're pushing the transients up a lot more. The equivalent of what we're doing with that over on the Pro Q is to have a standard boost of 1.4 dB and then have that additional boost done by, let me bring it out a little bit so you guys can see it properly, have that additional boost done by the dynamic range. So that means as the bass comes up, we get a little bit of an extra boost. So it's doing a similar thing. It is. They're not a million miles away from each other. And you may or may not prefer one versus the other. For myself, I do think that the split EQ is just a little bit smoother in the way it's doing it.
Finally, let's see how the split EQ does with vocoders. And we got a pair of them going on here. With the first one, I'm having some trouble with how clear it is, the clarity of the words. I don't think people can really hear what's being sung. I'd like to see if the split EQ can do something about that. With the second one, I've got a great kind of funky, kind of grungy sound happening, but it's getting a little bit harsh. I'm concerned about how it's going to play out as it goes through mix and master and it gets pulled up through the dynamics. So let's see if the vocoder can do a little bit to tame that, but retain the fundamental character of it. Now, both the vocoders happen in the same track, in the same part of the song, so we can listen to them at the same time. So what we're going to do is we're going to listen to them once without the split EQ, and then I'm going to drop the split EQ onto both of them, and we're going to have another listen so you guys can make a direct comparison. All right, a little bit like the bass, it's not the difference between night and day, particularly when we get to talking about the second vocoder. But let's take a look at that pair of first vocoders first, where I think not only is the split EQ helping, giving us a little bit more clarity, it's a little easier to hear the vocals and hear what's actually being sung. They're also making it feel smoother. It feels more musical, and here we go. I'm going to use that word again. It feels that little bit more organic. I hate myself. I genuinely hate myself right now. If we move over to the second vocoder, I don't think all the work here is done yet. I think I'm going to have to go back in and maybe have a little bit of a tweak with the split EQ itself, maybe have a look at what I'm doing in the signal chain before that. But it's a lot better. It's definitely moving in the right direction. We're still retaining that kind of grungy, kind of funky feel, but it's just, it's lost that kind of harshness. It's sitting better into production. It's not all the way to where I want it to be, but it's moving very nicely in the right direction. I'm very pleased with that.
All right, let's kick things off with the first vocoder, and those are the vocals on the side that's going no way out. And so what we've got here is we started off with the preset vocal intelligibility, and the way you get to that is by going through the repair options, vocals, and then down here to vocal intelligibility. This is the raw preset. Here we go. Prepare yourselves. This is the way that I changed it, and I think you're going to agree. This really is earth-shattering. Wow. Oh yeah. Let me do that one again for you guys in case you were so blown away by the difference you had problems trying to, just trying to conceptualize it. Yes, that's right. It's the difference of 0.2 dB. That's where the magic is, boys and girls. That is where the magic is. So yeah, pretty much I've just used the preset. That's it. Added that little bit of flavor with 0.2 dB, and yeah, it's just doing the work for us. It's just nicely pulling out, making it, well, yeah, more intelligible, more intelligibility there below. So just spot on there from Eventide. Great preset, really helping that out. Very, very pleased. Not much more I can add than that, really. Hey, if the preset works, the preset works. All right, let's have a look at what we're doing with the second vocoder, and that's the vocoder that's straight down the middle, and that's the one that's going losing my mind. So what we've got here is we've got another preset that we're getting, unbox, wrap, vox. And again, you're getting that from the repair section, vocals, unbox, wrap, vox. And here we have, this is just the preset as it comes in. Prepare yourself. That's right. It's time for another Tobisonics custom job. Let's flick it over. Well, you know, there's a little bit of a difference this time. I've actually added something completely different. Thank you very much. I've also put a little bit of a boost here. So let's have a look at what we're doing, what's going on. So if we work our way from bottom to top, why not? We've got ourselves a 12 dB high pass, low cut. So we got the transients right down here at 10. Actually, to be honest, I'll probably lift that up a little bit before I go to production with that. I don't need that down that low. But hey, it sounds nice, so I'm happy with it that way. And then we've got the tonal at 110. I really do love this split. This is very, very useful. I love the way that you can get a little bit of transient punch from the low frequencies, and then immediately all that kind of tonal weight and kind of body disappears. This is gold. This is gold. This is great. Then next up, we've got 326. We're basically taking the boxiness out of it, hence the name. In this case, that's just taking out some of the kind of nastier kind of tonal aspects of it. And also what I've done is I've just put a little bit of transient boost in there, just a touch, rather than just here we're just dropping the tonal and the transient is flat. So if we go back to A, you'll see just a little bit of a boost out of the transients. Why? Well, because honestly, I just felt it benefited from having a touch of bite, just a little bit of bite from that kind of grungy kind of funk sound was actually helping it out. And then we've got a little bit of a difference here. Something I added myself, 3.5K. There's just a little bit of harsh frequency there. That all I'm doing there is I'm just pulling about 2 dB out, about around 3.5K.
So, did Eventide win or did they lose? Well, I think it's pretty clear that they won. I've been working on this production since sometime in May. It's now the end of November, and some of those problems I've been working on for a fair few months. The fact that I can just take the SplitEQ, put it on there, and even with the preset, get half of the way to where I've been trying to get, yeah, there's no doubt that the SplitEQ is a genuine problem solver. Will it become my go-to EQ? Honestly, I don't know yet. I really like the Pro Q. It's very practical, it's very intuitive, it does a great job. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the coming weeks and months as to whether I find myself using the Pro Q as a go-to and then bringing in the SplitEQ as the problem solver, or whether I just start with the SplitEQ for everything. We'll have to see. I'd be interested to hear from you guys in the comments below where you think you're going to be going on that one, or indeed if you've already been using the SplitEQ for a while, has it become your go-to, yes or no? If I could put it this way, I mean, I think a good tool helps you do your work by solving problems. A great tool informs your work by helping you to think about your work in a different way. And one of the things that I really, really love about what the SplitEQ is doing for me here is I find myself thinking about how I'm using EQ in terms of transient and tonal relative to frequency across the various different production elements. It's something that I was already doing. It'll be something that all of you are already doing, but there's something about the way that the SplitEQ works. It really focuses you in on that and makes it very intuitive. It's very, very interesting. I like it a lot. There's a lot of depth to this plugin. I don't know. I think Eventide may have made a classic here. They may have made a future classic. We'll have to wait and see. But I think this one's going to hold up and stand the test of time. Yeah. I think the Eventide SplitEQ, I think it's a genuine world shaker. If you enjoyed this video, please take a moment to like and subscribe. It really does help me out with the YouTube algorithm gods. It's that or I have to sacrifice another goat. And the local farmers have made it clear that if I do that again, they're going to Wicker Man me. There's also my new monthly newsletter that I put together. It goes out about once or twice a month with some exclusive kind of early previews of production prints and what have you months before the tracks are going to come out live. You also get my debut single for free. You're going to get some exclusive access and some other stuff for free along the line. And I'm going to be talking about the motivation behind how I'm making my music in a much more open and personal way than I want to do here on the social platforms. And there's going to be some technical breakdowns and stuff like that going on as well. It's dead easy if you want to subscribe to that. Just click on the LinkTree, my LinkTree Tobisonics in the description below and just leave your email. No spam, I promise, just once or twice a month, and dead easy to unsubscribe if I'm boring the stuffing out of you. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, good night and good noise.